Hey guys, how you doing? My name's Alex and today I'm going to walk you through my productivity workspace for 2024. So I've been slowly perfecting this workspace over time, and recently I've added a few little things that make this thing easier and more natural to use while still maintaining that high tech factor. So today we're gonna do a full tour. Go over everything on the desk, the cable management, how it all works, the special touches, and even the smart home integrations that make you completely forget that this thing even exists when it's time to get stuff done. Just for some context, this is what the studio looked like at this point last year, and we've come a long way. If you missed all the vlogs overhauling this studio, I'll make sure that I put the links to my vlog channel in the description. Back to the desk though, I absolutely love working here. Whether it's by myself or with friends, this desk has never let me down. So first, let's look at the desk and the cable management, because as you can see, this thing is squeaky clean. A few of you may remember it from when I moved into my first office all the way back in 2016, 8 years ago. Maybe that's why this thing means so much to me. The other reason is that it was handmade by some random guy on eBay, and it's not something you can just go out to the shop and buy, something that will possibly end up in hundreds, if not thousands, of other people's homes. The tabletop itself is supported by an old standing desk from a company called FlexiSpot, with the controller mounted on the front for quick adjustment. Cable management. Now, cable management is a big one, and no two cable management setup is the same, and there's no right way to do it because everybody's cable mess is completely different. All of the cables here run on the underside of the desk, with literally nothing running on the top or anything seen by eye level, which makes the technology just really blend in. I'm using a mixture of cable ties, cable trunking, and cable clips to hold up all of the wires. And you can get creative with the cable trunking. I'm using a piece here simply just to coil up some excess wire, which I had nowhere else to put, and it works really well for that. Personally, I get a kick out of designing and using a setup that's really high-end, but also really clean at the same time, i.e. you wouldn't know it was high-end unless you knew. And I think that's really important specifically for a productivity workspace to make sure that you're getting things done and not being sidetracked. We'll go more in detail about the cable management as the video goes on, but for now, let's quickly touch on the speakers. One upgrade I've made recently is the audio. Now, not the speakers themselves, they're fine, but the stands that they were on previously. Every time I even just slightly touched the desk, the speakers would wobble, like really badly. So I picked up some solid stands from a company called Kanto, and once I built them, I realized the kettle plug needed for each speaker just wouldn't fit through them, so I had to rebuild them with the cables in. I also used a drill and a jigsaw to cut new holes through the desk for these cables, and then I added some white cable sheathing around the cables. This really finished off the job and gave it that OEM look. The speakers themselves are from the UK company KEF, and don't get me wrong, I have tried so many different speakers, all the way from soundbars to studio monitors, KRKs, and I always like the sound of these KEF LS50 wirelesses the best. I always find myself going back to them, and sound is a very personal thing. These speakers are digital or active, which basically means they have a USB input on the back, which is great as you don't need a separate audio interface, as all the digital to analog conversion is happening inside the speakers and it's designed for the speakers. They sound insane, but that didn't stop me from adding some low end. There's also a 10-inch KEF subwoofer under the desk with a passive radiator on the other side. This setup kills. Now, let's talk about my chair, because this thing's awesome. Thanks to Sihoo for sending this thing out and sponsoring this portion of the video. Over the years, I've realized that having a nice setup is one thing, but if you don't put the ergonomics first, over time, this can have detrimental health effects. Personally, I've suffered from mouse and keyboard elbow, or tennis elbow as it's more commonly known, as well as a load of lower back pain from constantly sitting in chairs and using computers. It's called the Doro S100. This particular one being the white variant. For adjustment, you've got a 135-degree recline, and this lets you lean back and relax with 3 lockable positions which are perfect for breaks. You can also adjust the entire backrest to get the perfect position for you, as well as what they call 4D armrests to help take weight off your shoulders by offering arm support in 4 different directions. It's like being on a cloud. It has this dual dynamic lumbar support that's really helped with my lower back pain. And I love the fact that you can move the seating cushion itself to really dial in the actual sitting position. Sponsor aside, this is the comfiest and nicest looking chair I have ever owned. So if you want to check out this chair, the Sihoo Doro S100, I'll drop all the links below the fold, and thanks to Sihoo for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now, the display. This thing gets a load of comments, and ever since 4K 120Hz TVs flooded the market, they've also flooded people's desks. Personally, I really like it. I wouldn't replace this thing for 2 smaller screens because you've got enough real estate for multitasking, or you can just laser focus on one task on the big screen, which I've found great for video editing, for example. The actual panel itself is called the Sony A90K, and this one behind me is the 42-inch variant. The panel size is perfect for the massive size of the desk itself, and the viewing angles or distance never found them to be an issue, and it works really well as whether I'm sitting down or using the desk in its standing mode. The screen makes it a joy to use. And it's not even a monitor, it's a TV. Now, where are the brains? Because you don't see any computer here. Now, I actually use an M1 Pro MacBook Pro that's lived on top of the desk plugged in with 2 cables, one for the display and one for the dock. But why don't you just plug the TV into the dock, you're probably thinking? Well, great question. My M1 MacBook simply can't output 4K at 120 by itself, and neither can the Corsair dock that I've been using. But there's a little trick that you can do to this Cable Matters 4K dongle that will enable 120Hz at 4K on M1 MacBook Pro models. So with that firmware installed on this dongle, I can get 4K 120 out of my MacBook. So I did some digging online and settled on this CalDigit Thunderbolt 4 hub. With it being Thunderbolt, the idea is one cable goes in the laptop for I/O and power, and the 4K 120 dongle can interface with the dock instead of the laptop, as well as the speakers and other peripherals that need USB. After a little bit of underdesk cable management, I decided on the best place to put the dock and its power supply, got these mounted to the bottom of the desk with just a couple of screws, and then I added some extra 3-pin UK sockets to get rid of those 4-way extenders that were hanging down. Now I can basically rock up with my laptop, whether it's Windows or Mac, plug in one cable, hide the laptop under the desk with this cheap laptop bracket that I got off Amazon, and then the whole thing just comes to life. And when I'm ready to leave again, it's just as simple as unplugging the laptop, and I've got all my work projects with me on that machine. I think USB or Thunderbolt docking stations are really slept on. Let's face it, this docking station behind me is the reason this desk is the way it is. It's the reason it's so easy to interface with. You just plug one cable in and you're interfacing with the whole desk. Everything on it comes to life, and then you just leave, unplug the cable, and you're good to go. Now for some final touches. Over time, I've been trying to make this desk more and more ergonomic with the standing aspect to it and the new chair, which is awesome. You know what really isn't ergonomic? Apple's Magic Keyboard. It's the worst ergonomic design keyboard I've ever used in my life, and I'm having to prop it up with a notepad to make it, oh God, I hate it. I ended up coming across Keychron's Mac lineup of keyboards and picked this up, the Keychron K3 Max with brown switches. If this was for gaming, I would have gone with the red switches all day long, but for longer typing sessions and through the noise that the red switches make, I think the brown switches were definitely the play here, and they feel really natural to type on, which is the whole feel that I'm going for with this setup. The USB dongle is plugged into the CalDigit hub, so it interfaces that way absolutely fine, and it's also backlit so I can actually see the keys at night or when it's dim outside. Really nice. To the right of that, I've still got Apple's Magic Trackpad and a Logitech MX Master 2S, both in white. I've got both of these methods just for a bit of variety, and I found myself swapping between them quite often depending on what I'm doing. It's just nice to have the options. Now, there's one last thing that you guys may have noticed, and that's those USB-C ports that are mounted flush into the desk. Now this is one of my favorite mods to this setup by far, and the best part, it was most definitely the cheapest. For $11.99 off Amazon, I picked up this USB-C extender. Now these are meant to mount in car dashboards, but they can basically go anywhere where there's a hole. So the two USBs connect into the Thunderbolt hub, and now I have two surface-mounted USB-C ports that can be used for anything. If I want to quickly top my phone up, great, I can top my phone up. If I want to use a card reader, I can plug a card reader into here and it still transfers really fast. If I've got a call I need to make, I can quickly plug in the Elgato Wave microphone over USB-C, and it makes it even nicer with this small little coiled cable that I managed to pick up off AliExpress for about £2. This looks really cool, and it's the first thing that everybody talks about when they come to the desk. How did you get those ports in there? Well, with a drill and a little bit of persuasion. Now I do have some smart home automations tied to this desk. Because we're using a TV as a monitor, it can get quite annoying because every time you come to the desk, you have to use the remote to power on the TV. Aha! Well, not anymore. I installed a millimeter wave sensor, and these things are really cool. They can tell where you are within the room. So I can set up an IR automation to automatically turn on the TV and the speakers when presence is detected at the desk. And when I leave the desk, it can go ahead and turn the TV and the speakers off to save power. Therefore, the remote can literally live in the drawer, never be touched again, and the desk is complete hands-free operation as soon as you've plugged in your laptop. So there you guys have it. That's been my YouTube/productivity workspace update for 2024 with the recent additions that I've added. I really do enjoy working here. I have a great view out in the garden. It feels really natural, and I don't feel like my life is being overtaken by technology, which is really hard in this day and age when you want to have 4K 120 and you want to have a great audio system and you want to have a fast computer. It's difficult to bridge that gap, and that's what I've been trying to do here, is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to make it all completely effortless. So if you guys have enjoyed, a like would be awesome. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you've got any ideas for anyone else or me, let us know down there below. Anyway guys, my name's been Alex, this has been TechFlow, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.